Have you always wanted to make cute beaded charms just like these? Well, they're made using brick stitch, which is a really versatile beading stitch. In this video, I'll walk you through step by step how to start off the stitch to increase and decrease so that you have everything you need to know to start making these beaded charms. Hi, I'm Chloe Menage and I'm a beading teacher and designer over at pinkhop.co.uk, where you'll find these cute heritage bird charms as well as lots more beading inspiration. So let's get started. So to start off brick stitch, we always start with a ladder stitch foundation, and that's a chain of beads that look a little bit like a ladder. So we start by picking up two, and I'm going to pass through them both again. Pull those down so you've got a little bit of a tail thread to work with, just something to hang on to really. We can probably weave that in at the end. And I'm going to pass back through those again because I feel that often makes them a little bit more secure and it makes it much easier to work with. So I'm going to go pass back through so I'm coming out of the second bead I added, and you can see how I'm holding that thread bait tail nice and tight between my finger and thumb, and that makes it easier to work with and stops it flying all over the place. So I'm going to pick up one more bead now and carry on building out my chain. So in this demo I'm going to make us a little triangle, and we're going to start with decreases in order to create the second row. You may have already seen my witch's hat charm earrings video, which is a free project on my channel. And in that one, we make a triangle as well, but that one is made with increases. So today we're going to start with the decreases. So I'm just picking up one bead at a time and going back through the previous bead and then coming out the bead that I've just added. Pulling that nice and tight each time so you end up with a nice neat little chain of beads, and that's your first row of ladder stitch, but it's the first row of brick stitch. And that's what we use to work off. So to get started with decrease, I'm going to show you how we move forward to create more rows here. So with brick stitch, we always pick up two beads at the beginning of a row. To increase, you would pass under the first thread path, but to decrease, we're going to pass under the second thread path. Now, brick stitch is the only stitch that I know of in beading where you're actually passing under the thread path rather than passing through the bead. So we're going to go under that thread path, and you can see how I've just pushed my needle underneath that little piece of thread that's joining the two beads. Some people call that a thread bridge. We're going to pull that snug, and then I'm going to take my needle back through the second bead that I added, and I'm going from the underneath in towards the second bead. Pull that nice and snug, and then you can see that your beads are leaning in on themselves. Now they may look slightly wonky at this stage, but when you build up the next row, then they will start to anchor themselves. So now to continue, I'm going to pick up one bead, only this time, just one bead, go under the next thread path, pull that snug and go back up through that bead. So if I want to make a triangle, I just need to add one more. We're going to go under that thread path, a little bit tricky where I've reinforced it, so it might be a little bit tougher, but that's okay. You're just still going to push under and just add one bead and go back up through that bead, and you're ready to start your next row. So you can see how that's starting to taper in now. So to start the next row, I'm going to pick up two beads, skip the first thread path and go through the second one and go back through that bead. Keep losing my needle today. If you wax your thread really well with thread, which I haven't done today and I usually do, but if you wax your thread really well, that also can help keep your needle on. So we're going to go back up through that bead like this and pick up one more, go through that final thread path, and you'll see that this will start to pull that last bead from the previous row into position. There we go, and you can see how you're starting to build a triangle shape. So I'm going to pick up two again, go through the last thread path, which is also the second one, and go up through that bead. And if you just want to add one on the tip, then I recommend just picking up one and going directly through that previous bead. And I'm also going to show you a little handy technique that if your beads aren't lying flat, what you can do is I've gone through that last bead and I'm going to go over to the second bead in, go down through that, and you can see how that snaps that bead up into position. So I'm going to go up the one next to it and through that bead that we were trying to pull into position, and that really helps reinforce the piece and also pull any beads that aren't sitting quite right into position. So there you've got a nice little triangle, and this is the technique that I use for things like my jazzy flowers and my star flower pendant, and it's also a technique you can use to make the witch's hat earrings, which are a free project. So that is a decrease. If you wanted to make an increase, let me show you how to do that. So I'm going to just pass all the way down those beads to come out the other side of my brick stitch piece. And this is the great thing about brick stitch, is that you can work on both sides of the piece. So if you were making beaded charms, you might start in the middle of the charm with the widest piece and work one way out, and then go back to the beginning and create the other half of the charm on that side, and that's perfectly okay to do that. So to increase, as always, you pick up 2 beads on each time at the beginning of a row, and you're going to go under the very first thread path this time instead of the second. And then you're going to go back through that last bead as we did before, and then carry on by picking up 1 each time. When we get to the end, we're going to pick up 2 beads onto this thread path. So we add 1 as normal, just as you did before, and as you have all the way along that row. Then now we're going to pick up another bead and add that one to that very same thread path. So we're going to pass under that thread, which you can do by feel. You can feel where that thread path is, and then go back through, and you can see there you've then got an increase, and that's how you would do an increase in brick stitch. So there you have it. I hope you found that video really handy. Don't forget, I'd love to see what you've made using this video. If you've created any really cute brick stitch charms for yourself, do pop over to my Facebook group, the Pink Hot Bead Room, or tag me on Instagram, and I'd love to see what you've made. So happy beading and happy bead charm making. Make sure you follow me for more great beading tips and free projects, and you can subscribe using the button on this video. Thanks for watching.